Tower Mountain wasn't the kind of place you'd find on a postcard.
It sat way up on a rocky shoulder, just waiting for the weather to turn.
I was just trying to get through my shift, recording the usual weather readings.
The silence up there? It gets heavy after a while. I found these weird drawings in the back of the logbook. Just a crooked line, over and over, like someone had lost their way. Then, just after dusk, I heard it. Someone was calling my name from the trees. I stepped out, but there was nothing there. Just the wind and the trees, breathing in the dark.
Then the radio crackled, but the voice wasn't coming from the speaker.
It was coming from the timber.
I found the first ribbon the next day.
It had my old call sign on it, tied in a perfect little bow.
Then I saw the prints in the mud. They were mine, right down to the chip in the heel.
I found this old sign at the washout.
Someone had scratched a warning into the mel. That evening, a hiker showed up. He was shaking, and he asked me if I'd been hearing the voices too. He said he heard his wife calling him from the woods.
It's like the forest is using our own memories against us. Then the radio started clicking, like someone was testing the line.
The radio started playing my voice, telling Daniel it was safe to leave.
He looked at me like he wanted to believe it was just a prank.
But I was standing right there, and my hands were nowhere near the mic.
I pulled the plug, but the voice just kept coming from under the floor.
Daniel lunged for the door. He was totally convinced she was out there.
We hit the floor hard, fighting for control in the dark.
Then came the knocks. 3 of them, just as patient as could be.
A voice that sounded exactly like mine told him to let it happen.
We both just froze, not knowing what to do next.
We left at 9:20. I remember pressing the pen so hard it tore the page. The forest was dead silent, like it was holding its breath.
We were hoping to get out before the mountain decided to keep us.
I found the ribbon again, tied in the exact same spot.
Then I saw more of them, stretching out into the trees.
It was like the forest was trying to lead us off the trade-off.
My own voice called out from the trees, telling us we were going the wrong way. Daniel started counting the delay. He was losing it.
We ran for 40 minutes, but somehow we ended up right back at the tower.
The logbook was open, and someone had written that we returned at 9:20. Daniel started laughing, but it wasn't funny. It was just sad. I locked the door and covered the windows, but the voices were still out there. I went out to check the tank, feeling like I was losing my mind.
Then I heard my mother's voice, asking if I left the stove on. It was just so normal. That's what made it so scary.
Daniel reached for the window, and I saw a hand pressed against the glass. The window shattered, and the room was filled with all those voices. I lit a flare, and for a second, I saw them standing in the trees. The red flare hissed, filling the room with a harsh, flickering light. Everything went quiet all of a sudden, like the forest was holding its breath. I looked out at the trees and saw them standing there, just waiting. Daniel just stared, his face completely drained of color. He stopped fighting me, like he finally realized there was nowhere left to go. I kept that flare burning, praying it would be enough to keep them back. The forest outside started to shift, like the trees were moving on their own. It wasn't just a trail anymore. It was like a dozen different places layered on top of each other. I finally understood. The whole mountain was just a trap waiting to snap shut. We burned 2 more flares before the sun finally came up. Every time those knocks started, I just struck another one. By morning, the clouds just vanished, like someone had pulled a sheet off the mountain. The radio finally worked, and I called for help. When the rangers found us, we were just sitting there in the sun. Daniel's hands were blue from the cold, and I was bleeding from my face. The snow was covered in tracks, but they all just stopped at the door. The deputies took photos, but they didn't know what to make of it. Daniel looked at me once, and I knew we were never going to talk about it again.
I quit the job and drove until I couldn't see the mountains anymore.
I burned everything I had from that season, hoping it would make it go away.
But even now, I find myself counting the sounds the house makes at night.
I opened that envelope last winter, just to see if it was still there.
The ribbon was brittle, but the writing had changed.
It didn't say the old call sign anymore. It had my home address written on it.
Sometimes the phone rings once, and then it's just dead air.
My truck radio turns on by itself, even though the battery's been dead for months. I don't look at the windows when there's frost. I'm too scared of what I might see.
On mornings when the frost is thick, I see them again.
A line of boot prints crossing the yard, leading right to my front door. They never start anywhere, and they never leave. They just end right there. I stare at the door, knowing what's waiting on the other side.
The frost on the glass is thin, but it hides nothing.
3 pale fingers, just like before, tapping against the cold pane.
My hand reaches for the lock, but I pull back. I know better than to let it in. The forest didn't just follow me home, it moved in. The tapping stops, but the house starts to hum.
It's like the walls are vibrating with a sound I recognize.
I'm trapped in here, and the fog is closing in. I hear her voice calling from the hallway.
It sounds just like it did when I was a kid.
I can't look back. I just have to keep moving. I step outside, but I'm not in my yard anymore. The trees are right there, looming over me. The mountain has come to find me. Every way I turn, it's the same path.
The trail just keeps looping back on itself.
So, I'm back where I started, aren't I? I hear footsteps behind me, heavy and slow.
I know who's walking there.
It's me, waiting for me to slip up. The orange ribbons are back, marking the way. They're leading me deeper into the fog. The forest is hungry, and it's not done with me yet. There it is, the tower, staring down at me. It looks like a beacon, but I know better.
It's just another part of the trap.
I'm back at the base of the tower.
The knocks are starting again. Patient and even.
I'm done counting the delay. I stood there, staring up at the tower. The stairs were gone, just like the path. Then I heard it, my own voice calling from the dark. I pulled the ribbon from my pocket. It was bright orange, but it didn't stay that way.
It just turned to ash in my hand.
I tried to run, but the ground felt wrong. The trees were shifting, closing in on me. And there she was, the woman in the yellow coat. I called out, but the fog just ate my voice. She turned around, pointing up at the sky. The clouds were a color I'd never seen before.
She wasn't a person. Just a memory.
I saw my own face in her eyes. I backed away, my heart pounding. I fell, my hands hitting the cold dirt. There was something buried under the soil. I started digging, not caring about the pain. I pulled the radio out of the ground. It was rusted, cold and covered in moss. I pressed the button, but all I got was static. The static started to sound like voices. I heard my mom, the dispatcher, and Daniel. The radio was a trap for all of them. I threw the radio away, but it hit the ground hard. Then everything went quiet. Dead quiet. I stood up and looked at the setting sun. The forest started to fade away. I was back in my own backyard. I made it out, but I know it's still waiting. I keep telling myself it's just the wind, but the silence out here feels heavy, like it's waiting for me to slip up.
I locked the door, but it doesn't really matter, does it?
The walls feel like they're closing in, just like that tower.
I thought I burned everything, but I still have this. It's like a piece of that place just won't let go. No, not again.
The battery's been dead for months, so how is it even doing that?
Come out, I know you're there.
Stop playing these games with me.
They're here. They're actually here. Don't open it yet.
That's what I said, isn't it?
How did you find me?
I left everything behind.
She's right there. She's been waiting for me this whole time.
1,
2,
3. The glass is shattered, and the cold air is rushing in. I'm standing there, just staring out into the dark.
The porch is empty, but the smell of the forest is still hanging in the air.
My hand is shaking, and the whole house feels like it's vibrating.
It's not the wind. It's something else. I think the house is starting to change.
I slammed the door, but I know it won't stop them. My phone is dead, and the lights are starting to flicker.
The shadows in here are getting way too long.
The radio's on, but I never even plugged it in. It's glowing that same weird green color.
I can hear my own voice coming from the speaker.
It's repeating exactly what I said on the mountain. The walls are changing. They're turning into wood.
I'm not in my house anymore, am I?
The door leads out to the catwalk, not my backyard. The forest below is just a sea of black mist.
I'm trapped up here again, or I
can hear it tapping on the beams underneath me.
Tap, slide, tap, slide.
Something is climbing up, and it's been waiting for me. The door is locked, and I can't get back inside. There's a hand pressed against the glass from the other side. Something is in there, and it's wearing my face. The glass is breaking, and the door is swinging open. I'm sitting at the desk, writing in the logbook.
I'm looking at myself, and I don't know what to do.
He's turning around, and his eyes are just empty. He's knocking on the air 3 times. The trail never ended. It just brought me back here. I couldn't move, even as he stood up.
His smile was just a mask, empty and cold.
The floor beneath me started to shift. The voice didn't come from him. It came from the radio, even though it was unplugged.
He wasn't a person. He was just a memory.
I had to find that drawing. He just watched me, waiting. The pages were full of my own life.
His touch was like ice.
I tried to pull away, but the room felt smaller. The walls were twisting around us. I pulled the flare from my pocket. The red light blinded her.
For a second, he looked actually afraid.
The light showed me what this place really was. He started to flicker, like a bad signal. The flare was cutting through the illusion. I kicked the door open. The forest outside was changing.
Everything was overlapping, like a broken map.
I stepped out onto the catwalk. The voices were fading away. I had to find my way back.
I saw the old trail sign.
I ran toward it, hoping it was real.
The forest finally started to settle. I collapsed at the base of the tree. The flare finally died out. The clouds were breaking, and I could see the moon.
I just sat there in the dirt.
The flare was dead, but my hands were still shaking. The forest felt quiet, like it was holding its breath.
My legs felt like lead.
I reached into my pocket and found that damn ribbon. It felt brittle, like it was going to snap if I touched it too hard. I didn't look back. Every shadow in the trees looked like someone watching me. I just kept my eyes on the trail and kept moving.
The truck was sitting there, just like I left it.
I fumbled with the keys. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I locked the doors the second I got inside. I didn't look in the mirror. I just drove until the trees started to thin out. I felt like I was finally waking up from a bad dream. Back home, Everything felt wrong.
I kept the curtains closed and the lights down low.
I couldn't stop thinking about that ribbon.
I pulled the ribbon out of the drawer.
The ink looked darker, like it was still wet.
It was my address, written right there in black marker.
I burned it in the sink. I watched it curl up and turn to ash.
But the smoke, it smelled just like that tower. I couldn't sleep. The house started making those little wooden sounds. 1, 2, 3. I couldn't stop counting them.
I walked to the window.
There were prints in the frost on my porch.
They didn't start anywhere. They just ended at my door.
I stared down at the porch. The prints are fresh in the frost.
They lead right to my door.
I back away from the glass.
The air in here feels wrong.
My hands won't stop shaking.
Then I hear it.
3 soft knocks on the door.
Just like it was on the mountain.
I walked toward the door.
I know I shouldn't open it.
But the frost is already spreading.
The metal is freezing cold.
I can hear them whispering my name.
I just want to remember the sun.
The lock clicks open.
The door swings wide.
But there's no hallway left. She's standing right there. She points into the trees.
I've been found at last.
I step out into the cold.
The door slams shut behind me.
My home is gone now.
I start to walk with them. The forest is full of sound.
I finally know where this ends.
The forest stretches on forever.
The tower stands silent in the mist.
Now, I remember everything.